Let me know if this sounds a little familiar to you. New Year's comes around and you decide to go ahead and start setting up a New Year's resolution, whether it's going to the gym more often, making some more financially sound decisions throughout the year, or just figuring out what to do in a career change. And for the first couple of weeks, it goes on pretty strong. You start to make a lot of great strides. You're going to the gym about 3 or 4 times every week, but after about a couple of months, it kind of starts to taper off a little bit, and eventually you decide to put it off until next year. And you kind of wonder, maybe I'll just put it off. Maybe I'll get back around to it, and eventually the cycle just repeats. So subconsciously, we try to avoid whatever is going to cause us any kind of discomfort, pain, anything of that sense, even if it's for the betterment of our own self, like going to the gym. Because it's a change in routine, physical harm due to muscles tearing, we don't like to be uncomfortable. So, that being the case, what can we do to make the change that we want to see in ourselves or around us in that situation? So what I would like to propose to you guys today is a 6-step process known as neuro-associative conditioning. NAC was popularized by a guy that a lot of us will probably know as Tony Robbins. And it's a 6-step process that utilizes neuro-linguistic programming, or the psychology of words, by shifting the way you associate pain and pleasure to better suit the change that you want to make. So to give a very condensed definition to all of this, to cut out all the psychology lingo, by altering the way you perceive your current situation and what you want to change through the means of pain and pleasure, you can more easily take succinct steps to achieve your end goal. So I personally utilized the 6 steps of neuro-associative conditioning from going about 5'11" and 165, severely underweight, a little bit of skin and bones, to where I'm now going to be competing in men's physique bodybuilding. So to start implementing those 6 steps, we need to decide what it is that we want to change, whether it's a new habit, beginning a new routine, and also identifying what it is that's holding us back from making that change. So just by a show of hands, and be honest, how many of you guys have something in your lives that you want to change, start a new routine, start a new hobby? All right, so quite a few of us for sure. So saw one person raise their hand right over here. You mind coming up on stage real quick? You can just come right around over here to this side. Yeah, just right over here. All right. So can we go ahead and get a round of applause for this girl's bravery for coming up in here? Sorry for the stand. Yeah, right over here. All right. And can you tell us your name real quick?
My name is Madison.
Hey, Madison. All right. So what is something that you would like to change?
I think one of the big things, especially with this week, is disconnecting from my phone.
Disconnecting from the phone. I know with the election and everything going on, it's been a little tricky to try and not look at social media and not look at your phone, especially with so many things changing left and right. So we've kind of identified that first little part of step 1, which is to figure out what it is that you want to change. And the next part of that is to figure out what it is that's holding you back. What do you think is kind of stopping you from not looking at your phone all too much?
That's a good question. I think maybe that that validation and that boost that I get when I get like a notification, and I think also maybe just like fear of missing out.
Gotcha. FOMO and that little dopamine boost that you get whenever you see a notification can definitely be very, very addicting. So once we have that all identified, the next step that you need to do is to get leverage in making that change. So the way we do that is by associating pain to what it is that we're trying to change and not making that change immediately, and now associating pleasure and great feelings to changing that habit. So, for example, what do you think would be the worst case scenario if you don't change this kind of habit of constantly reaching out to look at your phone?
I think maybe just like missing out on something that happens like in real life, like being so focused over here that I just completely miss something really important.
Okay, so let's think of something a little bit more extreme. Now, a lot of us can probably be guilty of this as well, but while we're driving, how many times would you say that you look at your phone to see if you got a new text or see if you got some kind of notification, even if you know nobody's probably texting you right now, but you still look at your phone anyways? Now, with that being the case, you're putting not only yourself at risk, but maybe a pedestrian, another car. You could potentially put yourself 6 feet under or somebody else, and that's it. You won't be able to see your graduation. You won't be able to see the rest of your life because now you just cut yourself short. Now, on the other side of that, what do you think are some good things that would come out of not looking at your phone all too much?
Well, with that standpoint, I guess not putting other lives in jeopardy, but I think also maybe just getting to separate myself a little bit from the toxicity of social media and being able to just maybe feel a little better throughout the day. Absolutely,
and that's a very, very good way to look at it. I know I personally, when I was going from the transition from being underweight to where I am now, that type of pain and pleasure was looking at it where if I didn't change where I was physically, I'm putting myself at risk of potential health issues later on down the road, malnutrition, probably not going to be able to see a full, long, healthy life because of how I was physically. But on the other side of that coin, if I at least put myself in a better physical standpoint, I can now be able to have a better chance at looking at a much longer, more fulfilling life, being able to do what it is that I would truly want to do and not hold myself back because of being too frail, being too weak, anything of that sense. And on that third little step, you need to start creating an interruption to your limiting behavior or that habit that you're trying to break. So a lot of you probably know that whole little routine of if you're trying to break a habit, have a little rubber band on your wrist and just kind of snap your wrist every single time you think of trying to do what you're trying to break. Now, we don't always need to create some kind of rubber band in order to harm ourselves, in order to break a habit. We can always have a positive or a negative punishment to prevent yourself from repeating that behavior that you're trying to change. So when it comes to wanting to look at your phone all the time, maybe try texting yourself saying, hey, stop looking at your phone, or toss it, do something. But you don't need to harm yourself in order to stop yourself from breaking a habit. But it's always okay to get a little creative, to find a way that's going to be just a little uncomfortable for you to where you're not going to want to try and repeat that same behavior over and over and over again. So I know for me, one of the biggest things was making sure I was eating enough, making sure I was going to exercise enough. And those moments where you really just don't want to get up, you don't want to go out and be active. For those times, force yourself to do like jumping jacks, push-ups, something active. Break that little limiting behavior, that's that tiny little voice in your head saying, maybe I'll do this another time, maybe I'll do this later, maybe tomorrow. All that matters is that you find some kind of interruption. And for the fourth step is to create that new alternative, creating something that's going to be a little bit better for you than, for example, for Madison, looking at her phone all the time, and finding something that's going to be more empowering for you. For me, in my fitness journey, it's as simple as going to the gym. For somebody that's trying to find a way to not look at their phone, it could be something entirely different. So, Madison, for example, what can you think of that you can do instead of looking at your phone?
I guess maybe instead of like if I'm texting someone, maybe just say, hey, do you want to meet in person? I know that with the pandemic that can be a little rocky, but just trying to still get a social interaction without the screen in between.
Absolutely, and that's a good alternative. Starting a conversation with somebody that's there around you instead of constantly looking at your phone is an absolutely amazing alternative, because you're still getting that social interaction. You're still getting that little serotonin boost that you're getting from actually talking to somebody, getting something out of it that's going to make you feel better, learning more about another person, but at the same time prevents you from constantly having to pull out your phone and look at it all the time. And so thank you so much for your participation on this, Madison. Can we go ahead and get one more round of applause for her real quick? All right, so on to the fifth step. We now need to start conditioning this new habit, this new routine. So this can be as simple as just giving yourself a pat on the back, finding something that you thoroughly enjoy to reward yourself for now doing the new routine, finding that new habit instead of the more detrimental routine that you had before. And this can be as simple as just treating yourself to a smoothie, having a shake, something. And that's all that you need to do. Reinforce that new habit, and next thing you know, you're gonna find yourself repeating that new alternative over and over and over again without needing to constantly reward yourself for doing so. And lastly, to sum all of those other steps into one, you need to put this all into action. It's great and all to have this all on paper and saying this is great, I know what I need to do now, but it's all great on paper, but you need to actually put action to those words, those ideas, and those thoughts that you have in order to see if it works or not, see if it sticks. I know I, for one, have gone through a couple of ideas of how to get more active, how to get in shape, and it didn't work. So it's going back to that drawing board. That's okay for you to do. Figure out what works better for you and take those steps again to see if you can make the change that you want to see. And now this isn't a one-man job. It's okay to ask for help. And these 6 steps are only as effective as you make them out to be. And if you need help with accountability, it's always okay to ask a friend for help, whether it's a family member, a significant other, a best friend, whoever it is. It's okay to have someone to reach out to for help. Even if it's as simple as saying, hey, can you text me on these days to say, I need to go to the gym? Or, hey, can you come over on these days to kind of just help me disconnect from looking at my phone? All of these matters are okay. Just because it's a transformation for yourself doesn't mean that you have to go solo. It doesn't mean that you can't ask for help. And with all of this being the case, I just want to leave you all with a question. With these 6 steps of neuro-associative conditioning, how are you going to use those 6 steps to start a chain reaction in your life? And how are you going to use those 6 steps to change something in your life? Thank you.